And the pitch to Koss. Here it is. Curveball. Strike three called on the outside corner. So the Mets take game 2 of the series. And the rubber match will be coming up tomorrow. But for now, the final here today, the Mets 12, the Giants 6.
Welcome into a Saturday edition of Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey as the first place New York Mets took it to the Giants pitching staff today for 12 runs on 13 hits. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, and Pete Alonso, the 3 top hitters in this lineup, went 8 for 12 today with 10 RBIs, a home run, a double, and 2 walks, and that was pretty much over for the San Francisco Giants, and it all started in Kai Tang with the start, hitting Nimmo, walking Lindor, and then big polar bear Pete Alonso hit his 24th home run, and the Giants were behind the 8 ball 3-0, but they fought back. Dominic Smith with a 2-run home run in the 3rd, got one more in the 4th on a double by Lee and a base hit by McRae, and they had the lead, but the New York Mets followed up with 2 in the 4th, 2 in the 6th, 4 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th, and they win this game 12-6. We always talk about the Giants runners in scoring position. They were 2 for 10 today with 7 left on base. Well, the first place New York Mets were 8 for 17. 8 for 17 with 7 left on base. And they increased their record to 63-48. And at City Park, 38-17, a real good home record for the New York Mets. And it all started with Kai Tang getting a start today, his first major league start. The first inning was rough. He ended up going 3 1/3, left a couple runners on base. Matt Gage came in, gave up a couple hits. But Bivens and Beck, the reliables out of the bullpen, just did not pitch well today. Bivens going 1 inning, giving up 2 earned runs. Tristan Beck going 2 innings, 4 hits, 5 runs, and all earned. Really ballooned up, 28 strikes, 44 for pitches that he threw. But when you really look at this game, the Giants have not had that many problems in walking hitters as well as hit by pitch. Today, 5 walks and 2 hits batsmen, and one should know it, 6 of them scored. 6 scored. So you're giving free rallies up, and when it comes down to, throwing strikes and getting ahead of hitters, today just wasn't for the San Francisco Giants bullpen. And the Giants try to rally a little bit here and there. Of course, the home run, as I said, by Smith, his 3rd on the year, and then Willie Adames, who really has been having a tough 2-game series. Yesterday he was 0 for 5. Today he was 0 for 4 going into that 9th inning before his 17th home run, and he ended up going 1 for 5 with 2 RBIs. A couple real nice at-bats by Casey Schmidt, 2 for 4, and Jung-Hoo Lee, 2 for 3, and Grant McRae getting his first start in the big leagues, and he ended up having a nice game today, going 2 for 4 with a solid base hit for an RBI, and then he led off the 9th inning with a nice triple. So a good start by him, and I think that's what we want to see more out of Grant McRae. But the Giants have to turn a page now. A 10:40 start tomorrow. First pitch right here on KNBR. Carson Wisenhunt gets his second start. Of course, his first game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, he went 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts against Frankie Montas, if you remember him back in the Oakland A days. And he was hurt most of the season so far. He's only pitched in 6 games. He's 3-1 with a 5.2 earned run average. 29 2/3 innings, 35 hits, 6 home runs. And that'll be the rubber match of the 6 games. And, of course, the Mets have won 4 out of the 5. So tomorrow will be a early start, and then the Giants will move on to Pittsburgh for 3 games, 2 evening games and an early morning game on Wednesday. And then they come back home, and this should be a fun kind of homestand. The Nationals come in for 3, and, of course, the San Diego Padres, who made a big splash in the trade market, they come in for 3, and that'll be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Tampa Bay comes in for the weekend. So a 9-game homestand for the San Francisco Giants coming up after this road trip. 415-808-KNBR. Let's talk a little bit more about this game. Get on the phone. Let's talk a little Giants baseball. Giants now 1 game under 500, 55-56 on the season. Some good and bad in this game, but I think it really comes down to what Spencer Bivens and Tristan Beck did. As I said, reliables, just couldn't throw the ball as they did previously, and they both struggled. And really opened up the game for the New York Mets. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. More coming up right here on Sports Leader. Did you ever think you could become a big league baseball player? Well, now you can. Come to Big League Coaching Fantasy Camp. It's January 11th through January 17th, 2026 in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. Our host hotel is the Marriott Suites for the week. Come play with the great coaches, Joe Youngblood, Shooty Babbitt, Tim Flannery, Scott Gereltz, Mark Davis. Go to bigleaguecoaching.org and sign up today. Become a big leaguer.
And here's Garcia throwing, swinging. There's a high fly ball into deep left center field. Racing back is Mullins, still going back. It's gone. A 2-run homer for Willie Adames.
Back on the Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey after they win yesterday. What a performance Robbie Ray did last night. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Kai Tang could not duplicate that, as he only went 3 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 5 earned runs. Matt Gage came in, gave up a couple hits. That's why it was 5. But at the long run, they have to fill that 5th-man starting spot. I was talking to my producer, Kyle, a minute ago. Hayden Birdsong's getting his 2nd start today, which would fill in this 5th-man spot, and I just wonder how many starts he will have in AAA before they may bring him back. So that could be a possibility as we look into next week. The Giants just said, when you look at it, 10 hits, they did hit the ball well. They did mount an attack here where they took the lead 4-3, but the game just turned over to the Mets and their offense. And when you give up 13 hits on 12 runs, that's a lot of hits, and it really came from the top of the order. And when you look what Robbie Ray did yesterday, Robbie Ray, Nemo 0 for 4, Lindor 1 for 4. Of course, Alonso hit a home run for him, 1 for 3. Today, just the opposite. Nemo goes 3 for 4. Lindor goes 3 for 4 with just a beautiful bunt with the 1st and 3rd. He gave it a hit. And then, of course, Pete Alonso. He hits a home run in the 1st inning, a 3-run home run. Then he leads off the 8th inning with a double, and it ended up being 3rd base because the throw by Grant McCray was offline. But you look at those numbers, 8 for 12, 10 RBIs, and you look at the Giants, Elliot Ramos 1 for 5, Rafael Devers 1 for 4, and Willie Adames was really 0 for 4 until that home run. So you can see where the power numbers come. You can see why a team like the New York Mets are 63 and 48. The consistency from the top of the order is always a big plus in this team especially. All right, 415-808 KNBR. Got a few on the hold here. Let's go to San Lorenzo and talk to Mark. Mark, you're on an afternoon show with Extra Innings. How are you?
Bill, I'm doing good. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Where do I start,
thanks
Bill?
For calling in. What's that?
Let's start with 1 and 7 since the All-Star break, if I'm correct there. I believe so.
No,
right?
you're wrong.
1
no,
and 7.
they won 3 games.
I'm wrong.
They won 3 games.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, they took 2 from Atlanta and they won yesterday. So that's what you got to look at. 3 wins. Yes, they are definitely struggling.
No, I'm talking since the All-Star break, Bill. Since the All-Star break.
Yeah, they won 3
games. I
believe
they got swept. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, so
I'll tell you real quick, Mark. I'll tell you. Let me just finish this, Mark, and I'll tell you real quick. They got swept into Toronto 3 games. They beat Atlanta 2 out of 3. They lost to New York 0 for 3. They lost to Pittsburgh 0 for 3, and they're 1-1 on the series. So there's your 3 wins.
Thank you.
You're
okay,
welcome.
Bill. So the term looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. Have you heard that before?
No, that's a first for me. Come on, explain that one to me.
Well, yeah, you follow football. That comes out in football all the time. But my man, Rafael Devers, the man yesterday he got the golden sombrero, right? I believe he had 4 Ks. He struck out 4 times.
Then he got one knocked.
Yesterday.
Then he got a base hit. But you
There
are
you
right
go.
there, Mark.
There you go. Bill, when we talked, it's been like 6 weeks since they got him, and you were excited. I was excited. Everybody was excited, right? You're getting an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I still am.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's just you just said something that I heard just now. The top of the Mets order is producing. Compare that to the top of the Giants order. Is there any comparison in producing?
No, there isn't.
Pete Alonso,
No, there isn't.
who was on the block. Pete Alonso in the summer or in the wintertime, they were talking about. They signed him at the last minute or something like that. That man was there for the taking. He was there for
Mark,
the taking.
But you can't look in the rearview mirror now, Mark. You can't say they should have signed him. They didn't. I think the biggest issue there,
Bill.
Mark.
I'm not saying that.
Hold on. Let me just say something, Mark. Let me say something, Mark. Buster Posey wasn't going to come in here and spend and spend and spend. This is his first year. He wanted to see what he had, and he's still looking. You got to give the man some time to look at the bulk, look at what he has. I understand what you're saying. Pete Alonso was the perfect guy to play first base, but he also had Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores. He also was looking at other pieces, so we can't go back there. But you're absolutely right. Pete Alonso was there for the taking, not just for the Mets, but for other 29 teams. He ended up going back there, and he's definitely produced.
Okay, Bill. But for the taking, Buster decided to go with Rafael Devers because he was there for the taking, and they took him. Right? So what have we gotten since we've had him? We thought we had the missing link, the missing piece to that lineup. But unfortunately, I love Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman is not hitting. Adames is finally coming around, not for average, but for power and for RBIs. But again, a day like today was a typical day. They're leaving runners on base when they need to bring them in.
Yeah,
New York didn't leave. 50% of their guys on base they got in. 50%.
Well,
and
that's Mark. You and I have been
today.
talking about that. You and I, and along with a whole hell of a lot more callers, runners in scoring position is just a huge a punch in the ribs every time you look at the offense because they just can't perform in that role. You look at what the Mets did, 8 for 17 today. So you can see a first-place team to a team that's in the middle of the pack. And I think that's what has to get better, but it's not. And we can talk about it till the end of September. This is something moving forward. They got to figure it out.
Right. But one more thing, Bill. The Giants subtracted from the relief pitching. They traded away 2 guys that were critical in their lineup for the relief pitching. The Mets added relievers to their relief corps. And today you saw the difference. The Giants gave up runs from the 5th inning on. The Mets did not. Their relief guys came in and shut the door. The Giants relievers did not. So there's a difference. Yeah. Pitching has been excellent all year. Now the worst combination that can happen is no hitting and bad pitching. And that's not a good combination.
Yeah, Mark, when you look at Bivens and Beck, they've been pretty damn good the whole year. Beck has been shutting them out for the last probably 12, 13 innings. He had a bad day. Spencer Bivens has been eating up innings for the Giants today. He just didn't look sharp. So these guys might be getting tired. They're young pitchers. They haven't been in a 162-game season in that bullpen, and it's just one of those games where the Mets hitting they hit all their mistakes. And then, like I said before, 2 hit by pitch and 5 walks, and 6 of those scored. So that's the other point that you have to look at in the pitching department, because the Giants usually are pretty good with holding the walks and hit by pitch. Today, 7 free passes and 6 scored. So we'll find out, Mark. You're absolutely right in a few things you said, and we'll just turn the page and see what they do tomorrow. Let's go to Steve in Albany. Steve, you're on extra. All right, Todd in Fresno. You're on with Bill Laskey on Saturday afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, Bill. Long time no talk.
Pleasure to have you back on.
Hey, look, they're just not a good team right now. I mean, that's just the way. I mean, slumps happen. It's not that they don't have good players. They're just not a good team right now. I mean, they're fundamentally flawed. I do think, and you may want to chime in on this, but I do think they need to change their hitting philosophy. You watch, for some reason, somebody who I think should be shot told all these major leaguers that hitting ground balls is a bad thing because they're automatic outs. Well, fly balls are automatic outs too, and they're also more automatic outs But if you watch the Mets today, they rolled balls through the infield all day for base hits to score runs, just rolling them through.
Good point.
So,
That's a good point. I mean, it seemed like Schmidt was reaching for everything he could in Superman poses, and he just couldn't catch them. And I think that was where a lot of the balls were hit on the right side of the infield. But you're absolutely right. They're making contact where the Giants are popping out. And, of course, 8 strikeouts today. They had opportunities to score. They had bases loaded and nobody out, and they only scored 1. That was a big blunder right there. After a walk by Kinsner, McCray swings at the first pitch, and I thought that was a big blunder right there. And when they had Senga at bases loaded and nobody out, he should have waited a little bit, took a couple more pitches, maybe got him in a hole. The double play scored 1 run, but that was an open door for them to really rally in that second inning, and they didn't. And I thought that was the first mistake on the hitting side today.
Yeah, no, there was another little thing. I mean, I'm coming from being, coaching baseball and coach at the high school level, but I'm looking at Lee at first base, and look, it didn't change anything, but ball gets by Contreras, and he should have anticipated that. But we don't do that. The Giants do not do. They don't steal bases. They don't look to take extra bases. They play very passive, and he didn't. They said, well, the umpire might have gotten away. Well, if you're
I was just going to say that we couldn't tell on TV, and of course from first base. Mark Hallberg also is the first base coach, and they have to communicate right there, go, 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 or stay here. And the ball did get by him, but I don't know how far it got by. On television, you really can't see how far that is, just as well as, on radio with John Miller, you can't really tell exactly how far that ball's away and to see if anything comes by it. But you're absolutely right. Those balls in the dirt, you should anticipate and make the move to go to second base or anywhere if you're on second to third. But, you're absolutely, another thing you're saying is base running. I would love to see them run a little bit more. When Grant McCray got the base hit in the 4th inning, I thought for sure he was going to take off. He has 26 stolen bases in AAA. I thought they would give him the green light.
Yeah. They're dead last. I think they're dead last in stolen bases. But those are the things. But, Bill, I mean, you played with guys, and I remember watching when you were playing. There were guys that would have never even been a hesitation. I'm gone as soon as the ball hits the dirt. Gone. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about catchers on one knee. We're talking about pitchers that can only throw over twice. Think of how many stolen bases Ricky Henderson would have if he knew that you could only throw over 2 times.
You're so right. And that's the other thing.
Draw
a couple throws, then go.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I'm saying, they're not a bad team. Devers is not the hitter that we're seeing right now. I know everybody expected it to turn around. Hey, it didn't fall the way it is. Next year might be different. But that guy's got enough of a track record to see that guy can hit. I wish Adames didn't have such a loop in his swing because he does kind of swing up and pops up a lot. But, I think line drives, he's going to hit 20 points higher. So, anyway, and then with the bullpen situation.
And, you see that loop so much, Todd, and you're absolutely right. Let's just talk about that for a second. You see the loop, and you just don't know why it's such a loop from going under the ball. And he misses the sliders on the outside corner consistently because of that swing path. I would love to see him straighten that out a little bit and go to right field a little more.
Well, I mean, and do you think that, I mean, this is the way pitching is today, but do you think, because everybody says, well, it's harder to hit today because, so many relievers come in, and I'm going to say, well, it's probably not harder to hit because by the time the midway through the season, these relievers have got 85 appearances each. They're dog tired. And I just think, you don't have guys giving 200 plus innings there anymore. The starters.
Right.
So you've got a lot of relievers coming in every single day, and they're probably spent by now.
That's why
anyway.
You look at Spencer Bivens and Tristan Beck, and both of them have been a big part within the last month, and Bivens the whole year eating up a lot of innings. And today both of them were not crisp. Their breaking ball was hanging. They got behind hitters. I keep going back to this 5 walks, 2 hits batsmen, and 6 of them score. 6 of them. So you're giving them free passes and hitting them, and with the hitting with the Mets, they just multiplied that, and that's what really blew this game open.
Yeah, no, Beck threw a curveball that I thought was going to airmail the whole backstop. It must have slipped out of his hand.
Yeah, that was ugly.
That was not good. But anyway, hey, Bill, thanks.
Yeah,
for your time.
it's Todd. It's now we're going to see some of these games. I hate to say it, but you're going to see some of these games when they're fighting with some of the tough teams in the divisions, the first 2-place teams, and you got the Mets, the Phillies. They're battling. The lineups are a lot tougher. The big league hitters are so much better, and that's kind of why I brought Robbie Ray's appearance yesterday. He pitched a gem yesterday to this team, and you can't mount an attack like that.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. His changeup was just filthy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Todd, thanks for the call, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Todd. You always bring good perspective to the games, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a quick break right here on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. More coming up. Got a few callers on hold, 415-808 KNBR. Later in the show today, I got a couple great interviews. Howard Johnson, who was in the New York Mets Hall of Fame, sat down with him. Great career he had. 2-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ, and had a great conversation with him this past week. And then Roger McDowell, who was a pitching coach with the Atlanta Braves for over 10 years, had a great career with the New York Mets out of the bullpen. So those are coming up later in the show. So we're going to take a quick break, come back with more right here on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Pitch on the way. Swing. There's a high drive into right field. Going back. Soto. He looks up. Goodbye. And the Giants have tied the game. The former Met, Dom Smith, who drove in the winning run in the 10th inning last night with a pinch hit single, hits a 2-run homer the next day to tie the game.
All right, back on the extra inning post-game show, and a nice Saturday afternoon here in Northern California, but the Giants end up losing at Citi Field today, 12-6. 12 runs, 13 hits for the New York Mets, 6 runs, 10 hits for the San Francisco Giants. As John Miller said, Dominic Smith hit his 3rd home run on the season, 366 feet, tied the game up in the 3rd inning when it was 3-3, and then Adames hit one in the 9th inning, his 17th on the year, hit at 402 feet. But it was not enough for the San Francisco Giants as they only scored 6 runs today while the Mets scored 12. So they take one more game, the rubber match game tomorrow in Citi Field for the final game against these two teams. They played 3 here. Of course, the Mets swept them. Tomorrow the Giants could hopefully win the rubber match. Carson Wisenhunt, the young rookie, getting his 2nd start on the season, his first one against the Pirates, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs. So we'll see what he does in the lights of New York City. It'll be a day game against Frankie Montas. Of course, we remember him pitching with the Oakland A's. He was injured most of the year this year. He's only pitched in 6 games, 3-1 with a 5.4 earned run average. First pitch, once again, 10:40, and then the extra inning post-game show will follow. Just a little lead-in later in the show today. Roger McDowell will be joining me for an interview, and of course, Howard Johnson, good friend of mine, played with the Tigers, the Mets, the Rockies, and the Cubs, and he's in the New York Met Hall of Fame. So a couple interviews later in the show. All right, let's go to Don in San Francisco. Don, you're on with Extra Innings with Bill Laskey. How's your day going, Don?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's just like we're like going back to the same old year now. You know what I'm talking about? Where was our promising? This didn't happen, you know.
Well, it kind of fell through there once that All-Star break hit, Don. Since the All-Star break, they've only won 3 games. I think they were looking to build a team, rally around the team, seeing if they could take 2nd place or even 1st place in the NL West, and it just didn't work that way. So Buster Posey in the front office just seemed like the best thing they could do is get rid of a couple players. They traded Tyler Rogers. Of course, we saw him today in a Mets uniform on the mound. And then, of course, Camilo Doval to the Yankees and Mike Yastrzemski to the Kansas City Royals. And this is the roster they're going to work with, Don. So we're going to have games like this when they play top-tier teams. And as long as you see them battling, they're not giving up, that's all we as fans can offer.
Well, I just hope Buster Posey next year can get some key hitters and some good pitching. That's what we need on this team right now.
Yeah, I think he's looking at all what he's got in his stockpile, and I'm sure him and the front office, I think they're all looking at everybody, judging everybody, and seeing a couple of these AAA players like Kaiwei Tang coming up to pitch today, Grant McCray getting an opportunity to play, Casey Schmidt, some younger players. And, you know, you're just going to see how they react at the big league level. You can do everything in AAA, Don. You and I have talked about that many years. It's coming into big lights, coming into big stage. And like today, playing in New York City.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Bill.
All right, Don. Thanks. Appreciate your time, Don. And Don's always a positive guy, but when he calls in when they lose, he just wants them to win. And I think all Giants fans are just like Don. You hear his voice. He's just bummed out. He's a Giants fan at heart. He wants a winning team. I think we all do, and they're going to be battling here. There's 51 games left. We're going to find out if the Giants can put a run together. And starting tomorrow, if they can win a series in New York and run to Pittsburgh and win another series, that's hopefully is what to do moving forward. Win series and see how they can conclude the season as it goes through the month of September. Let's go to San Diego and talk to Grady. Grady, you're on Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. How you doing today?
Hey, Bill, doing well. Love the positive attitude as well. How are you doing?
I'm good. You know, it is what it is. You can't change anything. The trade deadline's over. This is the roster that Giant fans are going to have to cheer for. This is the roster that we're going to have to see if they can compete. Yesterday, a great game, especially with Randy Rodriguez being a new closer coming into that situation. And today, the bullpen, like I said, the reliables with Bivens and Beck just didn't have their good stuff today.
Yeah, totally. And, I think you never know in baseball. I feel like it's important to stay positive. You can get hot at the right time. But honestly, I agree with Todd a couple callers ago. Like, this is not necessarily a bad team. This is just a team that's making, more mistakes within the last couple months and after the All-Star break since compared to the beginning of the season. And those been a lot of mental mistakes. And I remember, I think it was FP Santangelo mentioned, this is a while ago now, but he said, like, this is just what you're going to get with this team. Is in the first half, they weren't making these mistakes and they were winning games and a lot of one-run wins. And now they're making mistakes, a lot of mental mistakes, like that play to Dom Smith, nobody covering second, nobody covering first. Some of the Helio Ramos plays in left field have been kind of mental mistakes. So I feel like it's a lack of focus team-wide that's been creating these mistakes, and then you just lose those one-run games. Obviously not today, but yeah.
Yeah, Grady, I've been using the word focus because it seems like they lose focus. Infield fly rule, missing Matt Williams around in third, communication in the outfield, the ball falling through. And it really kind of just fell through. I mean, there was a few times before the All-Star break, but they won 7 out of 9 games in that clutch situation at the end of June, and they faltered a little in July, and then they got hot. But after the All-Star break, it seems like this team just faltered. Everything just kind of fell through. No good hitting, no good pitching at times, good pitching, no hitting. It just kind of flip-flopped. And now we're looking at a team 1 game under 500. And before the season, if you remember, all the so-called professionals and the analysts said, oh, this team's going to be a 500 team. Well, they might be right. But the Giants still have a few, 6 weeks, 7 weeks left, and they can prove people wrong. They're not going to give up. Stay positive with it, but I'm right there with you. The mental mistakes, the physical mistakes, if they can clean that up and play good baseball and win games that way or lose games that way, it would be easier to watch.
Totally. It'd be way easier to watch. I think, it's a tough thing to fix, right? Because it's an individual player-by-player basis to remain focused, when there's a runner in scoring position or, run and don't get down on yourself when, that infield fly situation occurs. There was a runner on first base. Helio pops out. I know John Miller mentioned that could have just dropped, and if that was a heads-up play by their second baseman, that would have been a double play. So it's like little plays like that. I'm not exactly sure how it gets solved. I guess this is a Bomel situation, like maybe you sit a player down for a game, kind of I don't know if it's a punishment or something, but
I just think there's more communication. I think that's how they got to teach more. Grady, you got to teach more. You got to be a little bit more vocal in between innings. Just like what I was talking earlier, Grant McCray comes up, bases loaded, nobody out, and he swings at the first pitch and rolls into a double play. And you have Senga on the ropes. He gets a double to Schmidt, a hit by pitch to Lee. Kinzer walks on 4 pitches. This guy's on the ropes right now in the second inning. And if you can take a couple more pitches, push him out a little bit more, who knows if you're going to be able to work a walk there. But you don't. You roll it over and a fly ball by Ramos, and the inning's over. And here you got a guy that you could push right out of the game right there. If you could score 3, 4, 5 runs and take an early lead, you're down 3-0. If you could have came back and rallied there and add on from there. But that's the thing about a young hitter. He's anxious. And, of course, yesterday coming up there with 2 at-bats against Hensley and Diaz, that was pretty tough on him. But he came back and had 2 good at-bats. He got a nice base hit for an RBI, the triple down the line. Got to give him a little time to settle in at the big league level. I think Grant McCray is a very good young talent for the Giants.
I totally agree. I like Grant McCray. I think what's interesting about that play is there was a mound visit right before. So in the back of my head when I was listening to John talk about how he maybe should take a pitch, he's on the ropes. I mean, maybe try to sneak attack after a mound visit. They're trying to just lay one in there after they calm down. But someone else I want to talk about, Dom Smith. He's been actually really, really good, and so I kind of wanted to get your opinion on potentially taking Dom Smith. I know he's been playing a lot of first base, but with Devers being able to play at first. Now, I know Dom Smith plays outfield as well. What about getting Ramos into the DH and throwing Dom Smith into left field just to shake things up? I know
that's a great idea. I like that idea.
Been shaking stuff up, so
might as well give him a shot.
Yeah,
He was a left fielder. I remember him with the Mets coming into Oracle Park and making two fabulous plays. One was over his head, and the other one was a diving catch. He's a good athlete. There's no question there, and he's hitting 270 right now. He had a nice home run today. Have a couple good at-bats where he hit the ball well. I like Dom Smith. I think he's a positive force in this team. And sitting on the bench and then coming in last night with that pinch hit off Diaz, that was a key hit. You sit there for 9 innings, and all of a sudden you come up in the 10th inning, and, hey, it's your at-bat. You got to do something, and he did. And today, getting that home run to tie the game, turned the momentum around. He's the best first baseman the Giants have.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought Devers, he's looked okay out there. I know there's been some clunky plays, but they haven't actually been punished for any of that. I think, and he made that great play, pulled off the bag, diving tag for a double play the other day. I feel like,
right.
I don't know, there's something to maybe bringing Ramos in, letting him DH, maybe taking a little bit of pressure off, and then maybe he'll make fewer of those mental mistakes. So, I don't know, I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, Grady, we might see a little bit more of Dom Smith because Wilmer Flores, of course, a hamstring injury, nothing major where he goes on the IL. I don't think you're going to see him play first. I like Dom Smith at first. I like Devers as a DH. I think they're kind of flip-flopping them tomorrow, a right-hander, so you'll probably see Devers DH and Smith back out there. I just think Dom Smith is a fabulous first baseman. Really gets the line, covers the line. I love how he leads the pitchers on the 3-1 covering first. A veteran player, has played with many teams, and I think that was a great pickup by Buster Posey in the beginning of June.
100% agree. Hey, he's good out there in left field, too. So I want to see Beaumont just mixing stuff up a little more, maybe more hit and runs, more, movement on the bases like you've been saying. So, hey,
might as well get it going, right? Get some offense going. Yep. Grady, good call, man. Appreciate it. I appreciate your time, Grady. Some good insight there, and really a couple good ideas that maybe we'll see as the Giants continue here in the month of August. Let's go to Sticks. He's in Salinas. Sticks, you're on the Extra Inning postgame show. How are you, Sticks?
Hey, Bill, doing well. How are you, man?
Well, disappointed. A good game yesterday. That was a fun game, a good, exciting game for Giants fans, as well as the Giants cracking that 6-game losing streak. Today was kind of a clunker, but they were in this game through 4 innings, and the bullpen just gave it up. And the Mets offense, when you look at Nemo, Lindor, and Alonso, you're talking 8 for 12. That kind of changes the offense for them.
Yeah, I mean, you run into a break call like that on occasion, and I think it's one of the few games where our pitching staff didn't really give us a chance to win, where typically they are the ones that give us a chance, and it's our offense that lets us down. But, a couple things that keep coming to my mind that, people are being up in arms about the Devers trade. Like, believe me, Devers is our best player. Devers is by far our best hitter. He's not hitting as well as we would like right now, but don't make any mistake about it. This guy is a freaking stud. He's a stud.
I agree.
The one thing that really, a stat that I heard the other day that blows my mind is that we had a month where we made 2 steal attempts. Steal attempts in a month.
The month of July.
Now
that's when it was, Sticks. The whole month of July. Yeah.
The baseball has done everything in their power to bring back the steal, right? And we talk about Ricky Henderson being the all-time steal record. You know what else Ricky Henderson did more than anybody else? Got thrown out, right?
Yeah.
So he got thrown out more than anybody else in the game. If you steal bases, you are risking the chance of being thrown out. And I think that there's a lot of times where we get overly scared on the bases. I think it started when we got Jung-Hoo Lee thrown out at home a while ago, and after that we just got so just scared on the bases. We refused to take chances. The only time we seem to be doing anything on the bases is when we're making a mistake. You know what I mean?
Well, I'd like to see Grant McCray get the green light. I think he's got legit speed to get the green light. Jung-Hoo Lee, get the green light. Let him go. Let's see what they can
never
do.
Tries to steal. Jung-Hoo Lee never tries to steal.
Well, the other thing, too, Sticks, Yeah, let me finish one thing, Sticks. The other thing that bugs me is all these other teams are getting walking leads. Like Juan Soto gets a walking lead. They don't even throw over to first base, and he stands up at second base on a stolen base. What happened to throwing over? What happened to stepping off? What happened to changing your move to first base? And it seems like the opposition are getting these free stolen bases half the time. That's what upsetting me as an ex-pitcher. Throw over there. You got 2 throw overs. And maybe you throw a couple pitch outs. Maybe you give Bailey and Kinsner an opportunity to throw a guy out if they're doing that. They have to stop the running game and increase the running game for themselves.
And if nothing else, you just hold. You know, if you can't throw over, you can still stop and hold and stop them from getting that walking lead. You don't have to throw over there, right? You just hold. That's still considered, but that's still considered a throw over. They still count that as one. So you just got to vary it. But I wish they would do some pitch outs. That's one thing I wish this team would do if they know they're going to steal. So we'll find out more of those, Sticks. We'll see how it rolls. But you know what? Good call, Sticks. You bring up a lot of good points, and I'm right there with you. More stolen bases. Get on base, give these guys a green light, and see what they can do. But thanks for the call tonight. I really appreciate that. All right, we're going to take a quick break on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Coming up next, I sit down with Howard Johnson, Hojo, and we have a great conversation of his career, as well as being in the New York Mets Hall of Fame. He was a great player with the Detroit Tigers for 5 years, came over to the Mets, and more over than us, he had a fantastic career. Howard Johnson coming up next with Bill Laskey right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR, the sports leader.
Hi, it's former Major Leaguer Buddy Biancalana. It was my zone experience in the World Series in which I played the best of my career that led to being the founder of Zone Motion, the only mental training program proven through research and studies to enhance performance and expedite development for athletes of any age. Whether you're a professional or any level amateur, regardless of your sport, Zone Motion is for you. You can check out this life-changing program at zonemotion.com. And go Giants!
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey. My guest played 14 years in Major League Baseball, a two-time World Series champ, 1984 with the Detroit Tigers, 1986 with the New York Mets, a two-time All-Star, two-time Silver Slugger Award winner, and also in the Hall of Fame with the New York Mets. Let's welcome in Howard Johnson. Hojo, how are you?
Bill, how you doing, buddy? I'm doing good.
Oh, thanks for joining me. And this time of the year, it's always exciting. It's the June amateur draft. Of course, you
Yeah.
got drafted out of high school. You didn't sign with the New York Yankees. And what we did back then, they also had a January draft, which was drafted players that didn't sign. And you end up getting drafted in 1979 by the Tigers. Tell me a little bit
Yep.
about those times.
Well, there were fun times for sure. I didn't really know, first of all, no one knows for sure they're going to get drafted. And then, back then there's no internet, there's no computer really, to check anything. So I was hoping that I would. I had scouts tell me that I was going to be drafted, but you never know. I didn't sign in June with the Yankees. Um, Actually, the scout that drafted me, he drafted me. He told me, he goes, I really don't sign analyst on Yada. I think if you play this fall, that you'll be ready to go in spring training for our A-ball club. And so they did not try to re-sign me for anything more than what they offered back in June. So I declined it. And the Tigers drafted me and actually told me that was their plan, was to send me to spring training, minor league camp, and make their A-ball club. If I could do it, and I would get a real chance to do it. So I thought that was very, very intriguing, and I wanted to get going, so I did it.
Hojo, you were drafted as a pitcher as well as an infielder, and the Tigers ended up
Mm-hmm.
switching it and made you just a plain infielder. Back in
Yep.
the day when you started in Lakeland and Evansville, all the A ball and double A, triple A teams, what positions did they have you playing?
Well, in the beginning, I played short, which is weird. I played shortstop, which I played a lot in high school. I played shortstop and pitched, like most players in high school. So I played short for about 2 weeks, and then they moved me to third base, and that was it. I never played another spot um, for the Tigers other than third base. Occasionally, I played some shortstop when I got to the big leagues, but and I played a little bit of the outfield. But primarily my spot was third base. And my manager, Fred Hatfield, who died a few years ago, used to tell me, he goes, "You or Marty Castillo are going to be the next third baseman for the Tigers." And I'm like, really? Okay, I appreciate you telling me that. But yeah, it was fun to know that at least you were on the radar.
Howard Johnson joining me on the extra inning post game. Hojo, you were a switch hitter. When did you start switch hitting regularly? And what side was harder for you when you started?
Well, I'm a natural left-handed hitter. My dad flipped me to switch hit back when I was a little kid. So probably 4 or 5 years old,
Wow.
hitting right-handed. So I was doing both way back then. And right-handed was always my struggle side. I did have one really big season right-handed, and that was in '87. My training that off season was very right-hand intensive, and I felt like that played a huge role in that. So going into the spring of '87, I felt very good about where I was as a switch hitter, knowing that, yeah, it is, Bill. You're going to face, we're facing the Giants. Roger Craig's going to make me face a lefty.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you can when the game's on the line. Or the Cardinals, Whitey Herzog, same thing. So that was the National League back then, where you really had specialists set up for certain guys, and I knew that was coming, and I didn't want to be a fish out of water when that happened.
Well, December 7th, 1984, the Tigers traded you to the New York Mets, going from the
Yep.
American League to the National League, a different league, but also playing in New York City. Did you have any thoughts of when that move was being made about playing in New York City? Because that was the Big Apple.
Yeah, it was a big apple. It was definitely not something I thought about. But the thing was, I knew the Mets a little bit. I knew Davey Johnson from back in my high school days. We used to do a camp down there in Clearwater, and he was with the Phillies, and he would come in and do the camp. So I knew Davey. And I just felt like it was going to be an opportunity for me to go there and play. Bill LaJoy was the general manager of the Tigers at the time. And he called me that morning on the 7th of December, his last day of winter meetings, I believe. And he told me that he traded me and that he really didn't want to trade me, but he was afraid Sparky wasn't going to use me in a way that he felt like I should be used. So he said, "Hey, we need pitching, we need innings, and this is a good fit for you and for us." So he traded me to the Mets, and I was very happy.
Now, with the connection you had with Davey Johnson, it was a whole different manager than Sparky Anderson. Sparky was the older, stern type of manager. Davey was just learning how to manage, and he was more of a player manager. How did you accept Davey over Sparky?
I really preferred Davey, and I preferred his style because I think he tried to get to know the players a little bit more. It's a lesson I learned later on as I managed in the minor leagues, but I think the more you understand your players, you know who they are, I think it's easier to find ways that they can help, your ball club. And that was Davey's approach. And Sparky was more like, you're going to do it this way, and that's that. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. But, it just wasn't working out 100% of the time. And I felt like when I went over to the Mets that Davey understood me immediately. And, I was in a good spot mentally, and things just started to happen for me as my years accumulated with the Mets. But I think it just goes a long way to, the personalities of the managers, their style does have an effect on players.
Howard Johnson joining me on the Extra Inning post-game show. Speed was a part of your game, 30-30. Those numbers just aren't as easy as people think. What did you do in helping Speed? What did you do in getting those jumps? How did you work on that, Howard?
So I'll be honest with you, I've never really told many people about the way I trained it, but what I used to do was train on a straight. First thing I would do at home in the wintertime, when I was, before I was even drafted, I loved to steal bases and loved to run. I would sprint downhill. That was a big thing for me. And we did that because my dad went to the University of Florida, and in the Bull Gator magazine, they would talk about how their track team would train their sprinters to run downhill to create more fast twitch fiber and things like that. So we started doing that. I actually had a little hill at the top of my street, so I used to do that. And then when I got to the big leagues, I just worked on my jumps like crazy, really trying to be powerful from the beginning. I used to watch Ricky Henderson, and I used to watch Kirk Gibson, and I used to watch, the best base stealers in the game. When I wasn't playing, I'd watch. And I watched how they got jumps, and I watched the difference in it. And the guys that got the powerful jump where they were actually gaining ground and driving. And I remember, gosh, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Ricky, said in Baseball Digest, he goes, "I get the full speed in like 2 or 3 steps, maybe." That's what he said. He said probably 2 steps, maybe 3. And so that was always my goal, was to get into full speed as quick as in 2 steps if I could. And that turned out to be the key really to being successful. Because I wasn't going to run.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to run to get thrown out. You know what I mean?
And you were going downhill. I never heard anything like that. So balance had to play a lot of that also, because you're motivating going downward. How did you do that, and how did you stable yourself like that?
You just learn that your body adjusts. I would sprint down the hill, top of my street, and do about 10 or 12 sprints a day almost. And it forces you to keep up. It forces you to find your balance and create speed with your legs. And if you're going to be a runner, that's like the number one thing. You have to have that fast twitch fiber in your muscles, and there's very few ways to train that. And so instead of doing overload training, it's almost underload training, but downhill. So you're really forcing your body to keep up. And be honest with you, man, you get used to it, and it's pretty good.
Joe, we talked about switch hitting. You ended up with 228 home runs. The best year you had was in 1991. with the New York Mets, where you hit 38 home runs. Power side, which is better, lefty or righty?
It's a good question. I hit more homers lefty, being my natural side. There really wasn't a right-hander I didn't feel like I could hit. Although there was guys, a lot of guys gave me trouble, to be honest with you. Right-handed, I think I hit some of my farthest homers right-handed, but just less frequent, except for in 87. My home run to at bat ratio right-handed in 87 was crazy. But I don't know, just one of those things where my swing mechanically, I don't know why. Maybe, because I'm right-handed thrower, more top-hand dominant. I don't know. I created more spin. I'm not sure, but left-handed was a side that I would hit more. But in order to hit any at all, I had to not think about hitting them because I'm not as big as Aaron Judge or anything like that. I'm just kind of a normal bodied guy. But if I thought about hitting line drives, hard line drives, then home runs would happen. And I remember guys talking about that in deep referring to Baseball Digest. Back in the day, that's all we had.
Right.
So I used to read that all the time, and guys would say home runs were the line drives that you just got under, and that was the mindset I needed to kind of keep me focused, in the middle of the field, taking the single, taking the walk, and stealing a base.
Well, in 2023, the New York Mets inducted you into their Hall of Fame. You're the first switch hitter 30-30, 87, 89, 91. Top 5 franchise in the history with home runs, doubles, RBIs, stolen bases. It's an intriguing Hall of Fame when you start looking at some of the names from Tom Seaver, Tug McGraw, Jerry Guzman, Rusty Staub, of course, some of
Yeah.
your teammates, Doc Good and Darryl Strawberry. When you recall this, it's a big honor for you and the New York Mets franchise all the way back to 1962 when they came over to New York and they played in Shea Stadium where you played. Now it's Citi Field. How do you remember all these great years you had? Because each year was consistent. Each year you played over 150 games. It was a top line event for you, and it's an honor that you'll be bestowed the rest of your life.
I appreciate that, Bill. It really was. I was super excited to get the phone call. Wasn't really expecting it, to be honest with you. And I talked to Steve Cohen, Mr. Cohen, our owner, and he informed me, and I was extremely excited about that. I was, of course, you look back on the history of the team and the years and stuff that you do, and when you're doing it, you never think about how you're going to remember. You just want to be remembered how you play that night. I want fans to remember that.
Hmm.
And so that really drove me, my career. And it's nice to be recognized at the end. I was glad my family and my grandkids and my dad was there, and my mom, and got to see me get inducted. And it was just a great day in New York City that day.
Howard Johnson, as we finish up, Hojo, 14 years in Major League Baseball. Of course, 10 years is so difficult to play, and you got 14 in. When you look in your
Yes.
rearview mirror and you look at all the accolades you've done and some of the major things, 2 World Series, 2 All-Stars, when you think about where you started, and you started in Florida and where it ended,
Mm.
it's just a great, great career. How do you thank Major League Baseball for this?
Man, I think Major League Baseball just give me the opportunity. We always wonder, at least I do, seeing players today. I've coached them for a long time. I don't coach them anymore, but just there's so many players out there, and just to have an opportunity to see what you can do, and have somebody believe in you. I think that's the nice part about it. And when you get an opportunity, you got to make the most of it. That's one thing I learned. Never take anything for granted. If you're in the lineup, you stay hungry, and you don't take anything for granted. That was the way I tried to play my whole life, and ended up having pretty good results. But I'm very grateful.
Well, Hojo, I want to congratulate you on a great career. Just a super, super 14 years. And when you think about it, all the accolades you did, you were a great teammate and you were great for Major League Baseball.
Well, I appreciate that, Bill. It's always fun facing you, man. Always good.
Well, that
I
was Howard
appreciate that very
Johnson.
much.
I appreciate your time. That was Howard Johnson on the Extra Inning Post Game Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
As far as, Tang goes, the first inning was a little bit of a problem for him. Recovered pretty well and pitched, much better in the next couple innings. We were looking 2 times around the lineup for him, and then we're going to go lefty at the top. So came up a little short of that and then gave up another run. But there was some good and, obviously got off to a rough start, maybe a little bit of nerves early on.
All right, back on the extra inning post-game show on a Saturday with Bill Laskey, Bob Melvin talking a little bit about Kai Tang and his first start in Major League Baseball. Last year he was up as a reliever, but this was the first time he started. And, boy, you get a start in Citi Field in New York against the top-seeded Mets. Yeah, a little nerves would happen, and he sure did in the first inning. Nemo got hit by a pitch. The first hitter he sees, he walks Lindor. He gets Soto in a beautiful pitch. A strikeout on a slurve on the outside corner. Then he goes 1-2 on Pete Alonso, and he tried to elevate a fastball, but it didn't elevate enough as Pete Alonso hit with his 24th home run. And all of a sudden now the Giants were down 3-0. They rally, and this was a good time for this team. They rallied and ended up tying the game in the third inning with Dominic Smith hitting his third home run of the year. They end up getting one more in the top of the fourth inning with a double by Lee, a base hit by Grant McCray. But after that, it was all New York Mets. The New York Mets scored 9 runs after that, and really the bullpen of Spencer Bivens and Tristan Beck, who have been so reliable, gave up a lot of a lot of hits, 7 hits in 3 innings. And I look back at hit by pitch, they hit 2 hitters, and they also walked 5. 6 of those 7 scored. So you got to give up a little bit about the New York Mets and how they can hit, and 8 for 17 with runners in scoring position compared to 2 for 10 for the San Francisco Giants. So tomorrow, an early start, 10:40 here on KNBR. Carson Whisenhunt gets his second start as his rookie year. Pitch against the Pirates, his first game, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Did not throw his slider enough. He only threw it less than 10 pitches, so I'm seeing a little bit more of that. He also said his changeup with this is a huge weapon for him. Couldn't get the feel of it. A lot of jitters your first start. There's no question when you start thinking about all the different things in a rookie's mind, throwing your first time out there, your family's in the stands, and you want to perform to your best, and sometimes that just doesn't work. So tomorrow we'll see Carson Whisenhunt go out there against Frankie Montas, a right-hander picked up. He was also pitched here for the Oakland A's for many years. He's 3-1 with a 5.46 earned run average. Only had 6 starts. He's been injured. 29 2/3 innings, 35 hits, 6 home runs. So we'll see how it opens up tomorrow in a rubber game of a 3-game series. And then the Giants travel to the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they play in Pittsburgh. 3:40 is first pitch Monday and Tuesday, and then a 9:35 game here, which is an afternoon game in Pittsburgh. Then the Giants come home. They have Thursday off. And the Nationals come into town next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then the San Diego Padres come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's off, and Tampa Bay will finish out the homestand. So a 9-game homestand coming up for the San Francisco Giants. All right, coming up next, Roger McDowell, good friend of mine, pitched against him, knew him very well back in the day, and we really talk a lot about pitching. He was a pitching coach for the Atlanta Braves for over 10 years, also with the Baltimore Orioles. A reliever, had a real nasty sinker, got a lot of ground ball outs. He was 70-70 in his career, 3.3 earned run average, 159 saves, and of course he was on the World Series championship team for the New York Mets in 1986. Coming up next, Roger McDowell and I talk pitching, talk about his career, and more right here on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. sound right, boys. Sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. My guest pitched 12 years in Major League Baseball. He was a World Series champion with the New York Mets in 1986, and after he retired, he was a Major League pitching coach for the Baltimore Orioles as well as the Atlanta Braves. Let's bring in my friend Roger McDowell. Roger, how are you today?
Good, Bill. Good to be on with you again and talk some baseball.
Well, it's always a pleasure talking pitcher to pitcher, and I want to get in your mindset. When you were a pitching coach, the baseball has changed. The velocity of the pitchers are increasing. The way of pitching has changed. Why is that, Roger?
Well, I think that the dynamics of what they're trying to accomplish has changed, and I guess the goal is for max velocity and max spin rate. And so, when you combine those two things, something has to give. So I think the part that has to give is the actual pitching aspect. And I got this question the other day from a friend of mine. He said, back when you pitched, or even way before me, when we pitched, it was about setting up hitters, especially from a starting pitcher standpoint. And hitters had different approaches, whether it was in the first inning or runners on base and all those things. So, there were times when we would pitch, and for me, it was at the end of the game. And a lot of times when I came into a game, I didn't want to throw strike one because I knew the hitter would be aggressive. He's looking fastball. And sometimes you could throw a strike to ball pitch that you could get an out on. But I think overall, Bill, it's the mere fact of there's not setting up hitters, because the hitters are programmed, or they are being taught, or they are being told, we want you to do damage, and that is all we do. So their approach to hitting isn't, two strikes, cut down on a swing, I'll hit the ball to right field, or in the first inning, I'm going to try to do damage with runners on base. And, I remember very specifically as a pitching coach going into Dodger Stadium and having faced Adrian Gonzalez in the very first inning of a game. And I don't know, but it seemed like his goal was to see every pitch in the repertoire of the pitcher for that first at bat. If he made an out, fine. If he didn't, he got on base or whatever. But our goal was basically throw as few pitches to him in the first inning. And, if he gets a base hit, play the outfielders deep and, the old Barry Bonds, keep the ball in front of the outfielders and you're fine. And so his goal was to see every pitch so that when he came up in the fifth or sixth inning against that starter and there were runners on base, then he would have already seen, the fastball, the velocity of the fastball or the break of the breaking ball. So he had a better idea of whatever the count was, what he was going to try and do. And seeing all the pitchers early in the game or pitches all early in the game, it gave him the advantage later in the game with runners on base or in scoring position. So I think that's the part that's changed, Bill, is that it's not a cut down swing, 2-strike approach. Ahead in the count, pull behind the count, let the ball get deep. It's basically, from 0-0 to 3-2 to whatever the count is, it's damage swing, and that's what that's the way the game is.
Roger McDowell, having 159 saves in his career, joining me on the Extra Inning post-game show. Both of us were starting pitchers when we started our careers. We both moved to the bullpen, but you ended up being a closer. Mentality has changed also about being a starting pitcher, trying to get 5 innings, trying to throw 100 pitches, to now being a reliever where you only throw 1 inning at a time. Why is that where pitchers cannot throw more than 1 inning?
Well, I think that's, from Little League on up. I mean, when we came up playing Little League baseball when we were kids, we never had a pitch limit. It was, our coaches were usually our dads or one of the dads on the team. And as we progressed through Little League and got into, junior baseball or Babe Ruth baseball and even in the college, it was more not so much the pitch count. It was, okay, if you're getting hitters out, you're going to stay in the game. If you're not getting hitters out, we're going to take you out of the game. And also, as you get up in the higher ranks of baseball, whether it's collegiate or professional, you can see tiredness. You can see legs kind of giving out, which, that's the old Sandy Koufax adage is, use your legs to throw hard. Yeah. And we were, we I guess, weren't conditioned to looking at a pitch count. It was, getting hitters out or not getting hitters out. And I think, what these young men throughout the game today, and it's just the way the game has progressed. It's pitch count, and when I was a pitching coach, I remember the pitchers coming in and say, "Hey, what's my pitch count?" And I said, "Well, you're in the 5th inning. we're trying to get 7 or 8, and so that's where you are. Go out and I think that's part of the overall. Going back to the initial question. From that standpoint, it's throwing least amount of pitches early in the game so that you have something left at the end of the game. But coming out of the gate, today's pitchers are conditioned to, one, be on a pitch count, and they know what their pitch count is. And so, when they get to, 90 pitches, they're looking for help, looking for, somebody to come relieve them, or if they're not, the management has given that directive to, listen, you're not going to face a hitter. You're not going to go through the lineup 3 times. You're not going to do this, and you're not going to do that. And I think that that's all part of it, Bill.
Roger McDowell joining me on the Extra Inning post-game show. You get drafted in 1982 in the 3rd round from Bowling Green State University, another MAC pitcher. Of course, I played at Kent State. Mid-American Conference, it was a good conference. People didn't realize how good it was. But it didn't take you long to get to the big leagues, Roger. In 1985, at 24 years old, you jumped right into the bullpen with the New York Mets. You appear in 62 games, 36 finished, 17 saves. We just talked about only 1 inning. There was a lot of times you pitched more than one inning because you threw 127 and a third innings. How was that
Yeah,
as a rookie coming up and getting thrown in the fire?
well, as you are well aware, and that first year in the big leagues, you're just trying not to get sent down, and so, every outing, from my mindset perspective, is every outing was important because you're one bad outing to getting sent down to AAA. I made that team, Bill, in '85. The Mets, they had battled the Cubs in '84, and they were getting on their way to get into the top of the division, and I had gone to spring training, and I was slated to be a starting pitcher at AAA Tidewater along with Bill Latham and another Jeff Bettendorf, and both have pitched in the big leagues. And so there was an injury to Brent Gaff. They had already had their 10-man staff ready to selected for the season based on the previous year. And so the only way I made the team was there was an injury to Brent Gaff, and Davey was looking for a guy that could throw multiple innings, be a mop-up guy, be the guy in the middle innings of a game. And because I was conditioned to be a starter, I had built up my pitches and my innings, and so I got that opportunity, not knowing that Brent Gaff would never come back, and I would stay in the big leagues, from then on. And so it took an injury, and and as far as the multiple innings go, it was more or less, you know what, you, I will stay out here until you take me out. And that's the way we were coming up, right? The first
Sure.
year in the big leagues, it's like, whatever you want me to do, I will do. And Mel Stottlemyre was terrific, checking on me, how you doing today? And because I basically threw 90% sinkers, and
Hmm.
so my objective was to get ground balls. And so, if I my biggest objective was to have a 12 to 15 pitch inning. And so, that allowed me to be able to pitch not only multiple innings, but multiple times during the course of a week. And so, it was just how we pitched. It was how we were, again, talking about being conditioned. We were conditioned to pitch and get hitters out early in the count, have soft contact, and if there was hard contact, you know what? I'm gonna thought process is I'm gonna get a double play on the next pitch, and we had a very good defensive infield, and so when I pitched, they knew that I was going to throw strikes and the ball was going to be put in play. I didn't get very many strikeouts, and I depended on my defense to get outs. And fortunately, we had a really, really good defense. And Keith over there at first base covered 3/4 of the right side, and so it was. And Keith being local San Francisco area product, and um, he was, I want to say arguably, and I didn't see anybody, but in my career, and both as a player, as a coach, he was the best defensive first baseman.
No question about that, Roger. The following year, 1986, the Miracle Mets win the World Series. Again, you have a stellar season, 14 and 9, 22 saves, 75 games. The two-headed monster coming out of the bullpen, you and Jesse Orosco, two fabulous relievers. You win Game 7. It was a great series against the Boston Red Sox. When you look back at that World Series, how intense was it? And playing against the Red Sox, it was a pretty good opposition for you guys.
Well, they had pitching, and they had the offense, and so you know, going back to before that World Series, we had a battle with the Astros that was wore us out. And I'm sure if the Astros would have gone on and beat us in the playoffs, they would have been wore out. But we were wore out, and I remember we opened up first two games in New York at Shea, and we lost the first two games at home. So we're going to go into Boston down 2-0, and I don't know how or why he did it, but Davy Johnson, and how there's an off day in between games 2 and 3, and there's a required workout. Major League Baseball had a required workout for the teams, for the media. And so Davey said after game 2, when we got to Boston, we're not working out tomorrow. You guys go enjoy, the town of Boston and take a break, because he knew that that series with Houston, especially game 6 against Houston that went 16 innings and geez, lasted almost 5 hours, that the ball club was wore out, and he had the foresight to give the team the day off. And it was more the position players needed that day, as well as some of the relievers. Jesse pitched I think 4 or 5 games in that series against Houston, and he had 3 wins. And I pitched the 5 innings against Houston in game 6, and so it was a nice breather. But going into Boston, and I think Lenny hit the home run to get us kick-started in game 3, and eventually got to game 7. And even though I got the win, Jesse, he got the save. I gave up a couple runs in the 8th inning. Jesse came in and bailed me out, and we stayed in the lead. And if you look at it on paper, it's I got the game 7 win, but it was Jesse that actually bailed me out and kept me in that position to get the win.
Roger, as we finish up here, 12 years in Major League Baseball as a pitcher, another probably 10 to 15 as a pitching coach. When you look in the rearview mirror, when you look at everything you've done in baseball, what made you put that uniform on daily?
Just like you, I love the game. And you love the game so much you develop a passion. I don't think that you initially have a passion until we played the game as long as we did, and we loved it so much going to the ballpark. And truth be told, at the end of the game, it was about competing. It was about competing against the best players in the world, your peers across the way, across the dugout, as visitors. And it was a complete honor and joy to be able to play with that longevity, and be able to coach with the same longevity as a player. And so the other part, Bill, is you never stop learning. You're always, they say you always see something. You never know what you're going to see at a ball game, but you do. You learn. It's a never-ending process. That you never stop learning about the game and about the people and the players. And at the end of the day, when we're old in the tooth as we are, it's about the relationships. It's about the respect. That you and I can talk, even though we're against each other and opponents. It was it's a mutual respect that you have for the guys that played and competed and went out there every day.
It sure is, and it always will be. And I want to thank you for your time today, Roger. And it's always great catching up with you. And it's always a pleasure talking pitching with you, my friend.
Well, thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. And, stay healthy and have a good, healthy rest of the year.
That was Roger McDowell on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader. Back on the Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey as we wrap up a Saturday. The Giants play tomorrow, 10:40, first pitch right here on KNBR. Carson Wisenhunt gets his second start for the season against Frankie Montas. And Extra Innings will be on after that. A good 2 interviews coming up for tomorrow. Keith Hernandez, of course, he's the voice of the Mets on the TV side. 11 straight Gold Gloves, 79 co-NL MVP. Of course, he's in the Mets Hall of Fame, 5-time All-Star, St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame, and just a fabulous interview. And you got to remember, he's from Northern California, grew up in San Francisco, Pacifica, went to Cappuccino High School, all good things there for Keith Hernandez. Then I finally chased down Ray Knight. Ray Knight's a tough interview, but I finally caught him, 2-time All-Star. Of course, he was the World Series champion in 1986, and he was also the World Series MVP. So 2 good interviews tomorrow, and please catch up with me after the game. And today I want to thank my 2 guests, Howard Johnson and Roger McDowell. If you missed either one of those, they'll be on the All KNBR podcast. I want to thank my producer, Kyle Haar, and Cole LaPelt for picking up the calls. Appreciate both of them working for me today. Great show once again with all the calls, and I appreciate Giants fans calling in. We're going to do it right here tomorrow afternoon. So join me, Bill Laskey, on the Extra Inning postgame show. Be well, be safe, have a great rest of Saturday, and we'll have more coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.